Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episode 17 of Seraph of the End. And so last episode was really fun. Shinya showed up in a great car. It got smashed. And then our poor troop, they got a little bit of a stern talking to and a little bit of a battle with Guren and his squad in the last episode to kind of prove a point that they are not ready to take on the nobles. They're about to go into this battle and they are not ready. So they're going to need to get trained. And this wonderful group that was like, well, they shouldn't even come at all. Guren's like, you're going to be the one to train them. So, so lots of fun stuff happening, right? But yeah, I've taken a week off between, I actually left for my trip like the morning of that I recorded episode 16, took a week off, and now it's a week later and I'm recording episode 17. So fun times. But I'm pretty excited to get back into this series. And yeah, so technically though, this is episode 5 of season 2. I know it's episode 17, but we've had 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, episode 5 of season 2. So we're nearly to the halfway point of season 2, if y'all can believe it. I am planning on reading the manga after this is over. So I figured out that there's a lot of volumes for the manga that keeps on going. I think it's on chapter like 113 right now. It's on chapter 113. I think there's 5 chapters per volume. So I'll do the math when we get to the end of the series. I still want to watch the rest of Seraph of the Endless. We'll have that like throughout the week. And then I'll start the manga where this leaves off at. So I'm pretty excited. I've had a lot of people ask if I'm going to do it. And yeah, I feel like just with Yona of the Dawn, just like that series, this just ends off at a really good point. And I don't want to stop. So, and there doesn't seem to be a season 2 coming out, sadly, anytime soon. So might as well catch up, right? So that's what we're going to do. But I am pretty excited to dive in and see what happens in this episode. We had a little bit of a lack of Farid last episode. We saw poor Mika. Poor Mika is struggling. The blood of Cruel is no longer working like it should, and he's going to need human blood at some point. So I'm like, no. Like, no, I don't want Mika to become a full-fledged vampire. I don't, but I know it's going to happen. So it's like, because I want him and you to be together. And it's like, what is this going to do? So it is abnormally chilly out this morning. So I was like, I poured myself a big cup of coffee. I got my coat on. I'm like, I'm chilly. So I need to warm up with some Seraph of the End. So that's what we're going to do. But in any case, we are going to start episode 17, season 2, episode 5 of Seraph of the End. And we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Aha! So, man, this was a pleasant surprise. I'm a big Attack on Titan fan, and I know of JoJo's. So, and I'm watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, and so the voice actor for old Lukel in this episode is the voice actor for a character named Zeke in Attack on Titan, which I love. And then the voice of Dio from JoJo's, and a voice of this side guy on the council in Neon Genesis. So he's a veteran voice actor. You can recognize his voice in an instant. He's probably one of the most instantly recognizable. He's also the voice of Adam in Skate. That's the other character. I was like, who else did he play? He's the voice of Adam in Skate. So if you watch Skate the Infinity or Attack on Titan, then he's Zeke and Adam. So Lukel is. So I'm kind of sad we only get one episode with him. I like that he came in for a day and was like, yeah, I'll voice this character, sure. But he does a good job with him. And the character seems very fitting for his type of voice acting, but very dramatic and eccentric. But yeah, so this is a very much a standalone episode, which was interesting, but it sets up some things. There's some things being set up here that I'm like, okay, that's what we're doing. All right, fine. Seems legit. And so let's get down to it. Let me skip the OP here. The main part was just like a recap. So we have Crowley. We also have Crowley with the 2 lady vampires that he's with. So I'm assuming that it's not just going to be Crowley fighting them. It's also going to be the lady vampires. And they seem like they're going to be just as tough as he is. So even though we're fighting one noble, when that guy was like, all 45 of our men were wiped out, it's like, well, yeah, you're fighting one noble, but those 2 ladies that are with him seem like they're stronger than like a typical vampire. So I'm like, they're probably going to be just as difficult to face. And then, yeah, Crowley is built up in the OP as being the villain of this arc. Now, granted, the series goes on well past this. Like, just like in Yona of the Dawn, this series kind of, as far as I understand it, ends kind of like as at the opening. Like, Act 1 is where this anime ends. So with that being the case, I don't think Ferret is going to be the big bad in this series, at least for the anime, because we still have all the manga to get through. And I definitely don't think Cruel is either. I think they're going to save Ferret and Cruel for like later on in the manga. I could be wrong. But I feel like Crowley is going to be our big villain in this anime. He was set up way back in episode 8. So he's set up all the way through now in season 2. I feel like he's going to be our boss to beat in this series by the time this anime ends up. And we got 7 episodes left. So it would make sense you've set him up in this one, and we're going to build up to battling him, and the final battle is going to be confronting him. Because you did confront him back when he first transformed into that monstrosity. So that's my prediction, is that Crowley's going to be the one to fight. And he's very intimidating. He doesn't seem like it, but it's always the quiet ones that I get the most worried about. When Luca was sitting there running his mouth, I was like, oh yeah, you're going to get defeated. Like, it's that trope where the character that just babbles constantly is the one that's defeated. It's like, okay. But Crowley being really quiet and calm makes me think that he's going to be a lot more difficult to deal with. So this episode being called Livestock Revolt. I like it. It's everyone standing up and taking charge, and the Moon Demon Army, like the livestock, the humans, revolting against the vampires and planning out everything. And so it's interesting, right? But what I like about this episode that it does is we have Narumi's squad. And Narumi's squad are the veterans. They're the tough ones that are training Shinoa's squad and all this. And I like that Yu's seeming arrogance is actually a important character trait of Yu. Because like in the OVA, we had Shahar, who we found out was a human that was turned into a vampire against his will. And so Yu knows that, if we consider the OVA canon. But I like this. They talk about Lucal being the noble that they're going to wipe out. And so I like the concept that Yu says here, where he's like, he plays it off like as a joke and being kind of cocky, where he's like, oh, la 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 la, vampire. And Narumi's like, are you not taking this seriously? Because did Guren's words not mean anything to you? And then Shinoa's like, well, and then Yu's like, I love Yu's point here. He's like, I don't want to have to memorize the name of somebody I have to kill. Yu wants to keep it to keep the humanity out of it, right? Because even though they're vampires and they're not technically humans, they are living beings, right? They have a soul, we think, with the vampires, but they are living beings. And he attaches Mika. He doesn't want to view the vampires as less than human, because that would imply that Mika is less than human, right? That would lump Mika into all of them. And Yu believes that Mika has a soul and a consciousness and a conscience. And so he's like, I don't want to lump these vampires as being just he's like, I want to keep them as removed from humanity as possible, because if I acknowledge that they either were once human or have some kind of, humanity-like essence to them, then that would imply that Mika does too. And if I have to kill Mika, well, I don't think he's going to kill Mika, but my point is, gather my thoughts. My point is that I think he wants to remove the humanity from these nobles so that he doesn't feel bad about killing them. Right? And he definitely doesn't want to kill Mika. He does view Mika as still having that humanity that he once was inside of him. So yeah, I like the idea that he's like, I don't want to give him a name. I only want to remember the name of the people I'm going to protect. And I think that's cool. And he has a great memory, because I had to sit there and be like, who are these characters again? Okay, Inoue. Okay, we have Taro. Okay, Narumi. I was like, but he remembered all of their names. Like, he was like, I know who I have to protect. I don't need to remember the names of the people I'm going to kill. I'm like, good on you, Yu. I like it. But yeah, so they're launching a counterattack against 8 vampire nobles in Nagoya. There's 10 altogether, but there's 8 that they're going to target. And the 15th progenitor is Lucal Wesker. Okay, and we're going to attack him here. So Lucal is in with Lescar. I don't know what progenitor, I can't remember what number progenitor Lescar is, but he's there. They serve under his branch. And Lescar, we establish, is having a power war with Cruel. So interestingly enough. And of course, these 2 guys that are talking about possible coups and everything, they die. So, But yeah, the idea is to keep all the nobles separated to where they can't group up. Because if they group up, then we're in trouble, right? There's 10 nobles total. And of that, we'll kill 8 simultaneously in 15 minutes. But that proves to not work. So 15 men per squad. For each noble, they had 15 men. So if they said 45 men, so I'm assuming that 6 squads went to go fight Crowley and the 2 ladies, the 2 lady nobles. Maybe they're nobles as well. They went to fight them and they failed. Like 6 squads are just gone. Like that's half of their troops. Half of their troops are gone. So yikes. Not good, Cotton. Not good. Mm-mm. Okay. So yeah, not good at all. And Crowley's the 13th and this guy was the 15th. So I'm assuming the two nobles they're not going after are Cruel and Farid. I'm assuming that they're the 2. Funny that Farid, because I'm assuming Farid and Cruel are the 2 nobles that are not being targeted of the 10, because they said Cruel was coming to the battlefield, and I'm assuming Farid is as well. So that's curious. That's curious that Farid, who we've established is working with the traitor, is not one of the ones possibly being targeted. We talk about this. I thought Guren was the traitor, but now I'm really reconsidering. And we'll talk about this. But yeah, the Lulu Lala guy. And then, yeah, I like that he's like, I just want to remember the names of people I'm protecting. And so this one girl, what's her face? Let me get back to here. And he's like, I remember all of them. He's like Shinoa, Kimazuki, Mitsuba, Yoichi. Calls them all by their first names, you know. And he's like, and you all, Makoto Narumi, Yayoi Indo. Yayoi. Yeah, he says Yayoi a lot. Rika Inoue, Taro Kageyama, and Shusaku Iwasaki. So Inoue, Iwasaki, Indo, and Narumi, and Kageyama. Will come back with victory. Yeah, Yu is a lot like Guren in this. A lot like Guren. And I feel like they're 2 characters, like they both have a strong sense to protect people that they care about. And so knowing that makes me question whether Guren is the traitor or not. I was all convinced at the end of season 1. I was like, oh no, it's Guren. No questions asked. And now I don't know. I don't think it's Guren anymore. This show does a funny thing where it makes you really question who is the traitor and who is not. And I like that Shinoa is like apologizing for you, but she's like, our squad does feel the same way. We're here to protect people. And the camera movement in this series is interesting, where it just like moves around and it jerks. It's interesting, right? It's very interesting. So he keeps asking Yayoi where the target is. So Yayoi seems to have the spectacles on. And so maybe she can see maybe she has like special like sniper sight or some way to tell. That's interesting. Now, the one girl, in a way, she makes me a little bit nervous. She has death flags because she's like, oh, suddenly hearing about all this makes me nervous. Like, she seems the least gung-ho about all this. She makes me nervous. I'm like, I get red flag death flag vibes from Inoue. I'm not a fan of it because Narumi's like, calm down. Yeah, it's like, I don't get good vibes from Inoue. I think if anybody on Narumi's squad's gonna die, it's gonna be her. Her or Kageyama, because we haven't seen much out of Kageyama either. Calmly execute our mission without losing anybody. So the main thing here is they want to stay calm and not freak out, which is great. Glad they're on board with that. As soon as you went to the window to look outside, I was like, you may want to step away from that so the vampires don't see you. But I'm like, I guess they're just assuming that they won't notice. And so up in the sky tower there is Yoichi and Shinoa. And Yoichi is freaking out, like you would, because he's nervous that stuff's going to go wrong. But yeah, he's really, really nervous. And Shinoa's like, calm down. It's fine. Shinoa is a good sniper. I like that he tells Yoichi about this mentality that he's like, you just need to be calm. It's a sniper's job to like be cool under pressure, and that's our job. And if you think about it, the sniper team, they do have a lot of pressure on them, but they're also removed from the battle, so there's not that pressure of being on the battlefield in the moment with the enemy. You're kind of distanced yourself, so there is like a sense of calm there. But then Yoichi's like, well, what if we fail? And he's like, then we have the other team as backup. He's like, you're setting yourself up for failure if you're nervous. He's like, this is your first sniper mission, right? And I feel like Yoichi's done other sniping in the past, but this is his first like sit down actual mission. And I like that Guren told Shinya to teach him, like, about becoming a sniper. Because Shinya is super, super calm. I don't know. Is it bad that I get traitor vibes from Shinya? Is it bad? I love Shinya's character so much, but I'm just like, I don't think it's Credo. I don't think it's him, because he seems too blunt to just sell them all out. And he's like all about this world order and taking over the world. I don't think it's him. And I don't think it's Guren now. I'm like, I think it's Shinya, the adopted kid. I think that it's Shinya. And I love Shinya's character, and I love him and Guren together, but I'm like, I think that it's Shinya that's the traitor. And that's going to be, because that seems like a thematic thing where Guren and you are so similar that if Shinya and Mika kind of have a similar vibe, that if Shinya is the traitor and Guren's like, Mika's going to betray you just like Shinya betrayed me, and then you'll be like, what? Like, I feel like it's setting up something like that. But obviously Mika and Shinya are different, so, and Guren and you are different, so I don't know. I just get, there's a few moments here where I get just kind of like, vibes from Shinya. One, because he is really calm. But this is the first thing. He says, if we fail, there's still the combat team, so let's take it easy. And he talks about a sniper's job. He says the most important quality of a sniper is lightheartedness. Like, you have to be... And that explains why he's so, like, flippant about everything. Like, he is so lighthearted, because it's his job to be that way in order to not get stressed and be under pressure and make a mistake. Right? And Yoichi's like, okay, he's like, snipers need to keep their cool to kill enemies, to back up comrades, and to kill our own before they're captured or tortured if they fall behind. And that's when Yoichi's like, wait, kill our own comrades? What? Wait, what? And he says, if needed, as long as you don't forget to relax and don't get too nervous, we're okay. That's like the first little tiny red flag that I was like, oh, kill our comrades, huh? That just seems like, I don't know, it seems like an out for Shinya, that if Shinya is like, he's erasing suspicion that if he has to kill one of their like, I'm just imagining, my theory is that with that line, if somebody from Narumi, if Shinya is the traitor, now if he's not the traitor, then this will fall through, but if he is the traitor, then one of Narumi's squad falls behind or finds something out about Shinya, and Shinya's like, oh, sorry, bye, and then he's like, he fell behind, I had to do it. And Yoichi would be like, oh, well, that's what he did say. I feel like he's planting that seed to douse suspicion later on if something like that happens and he has to kill one of their members. But he is helpful. He tells them how to take control of the space. He's like, once you're breathing steadily and you're calmed down, then you can call your demon forth so that we can do this. And I do love Yoichi when he steps into the sunlight and calls Gekko-in out and sees like the wind moving and billowing. I love it. I love that just like sense of serene and calm around Yoichi. My little Cinnabon. I love it. And he's like, I'm calm now. And Shinya's like, good boy. Here comes our target. I like it. And he says, check your snipe point. So yeah, it's interesting, right? And then there it is. So there's lots of vampires roaming around. There's like at least 9 or 10, 11 or 12 of them. Some of them look a little bit different. There's like 20 of them. There's like 20 vampires there. But they're looking for the one. And then there's him. And it seems like they're bringing a cart, I'm assuming with the blood and everything, Lucal Wesker. And I like that little bead of sweat that drops down. Don't get bloodthirsty until the mission starts. They'll pick up on that. And I bet, yeah, he just detects it right there. Lucal detects it right before it hits him. And so they have, of all times, I'm like, so I guess he comes to the park. They establish he comes to the park every day to have his drink. And so I'm guessing that's just like his habit. You know, it's very human. You know, you have that routine, right? So it makes me wonder, like, if he was I keep thinking these vampires were human before and just something happened to them, but he says, not bad. Where is it from today? This part was really key. He's like, blood collection area near Naka Ward, number 58, a female age 4. Ugh. That part is always disgusting with the vampires, the idea that they would drain blood from like little kids. It's very creepy, and I don't like it. It is definitely the villainous aspect of them. And he's like, the mellow taste of a little girl's blood is delicious indeed. Oh, it's like that lolly thing. No. Esther is being joined. But poor Esther. I liked Esther's little bandana. It was purple like Lukel's little cape there. His little what do you call it that's in front of him? Levi has it. But he's like, this is rare grade AAA quality. You should drink it while it's fresh. Ugh. And he's like, thank you. I'll try it afterwards. He's like, you should. And he's just rolling it around like a wine in a glass. So they talk about this letter from Cruel that she sent out. The plan to annihilate the human organization, the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. They talk about that. And yes, on that cart is like the table with the blood. And it's in like a chilled wine bottle because why not? So he's lamenting the fact that he has to deal with measly humans. And it seems like it's more work than needed. Arrogantly giving orders from Kyoto. I don't like it. And I like this saying, when did I start working for her? And Esther's like, well, we're technically from a different political faction. We just receive orders from the council, not her. But Lord Cruel herself is coming to Nagoya this time. And that gets his attention. He's like, oh, well then maybe I should comply if she's actually going to be here. So it seems like even though they don't like Cruel and they think that she's arrogant, when she's physically there, she has a presence. And they're like, yeah, we probably need to do what she says. That's interesting. I like that. And he's like, that's a difficult question. We belong to the Lest Car faction, who's in a power struggle with her. So I'll face sanctions if I comply. What shall I do? So that's interesting. So we're getting into this like political drama with the vampires. Like they're all, to them, it's just like there's political wars going on between all of them. And Lukel's like, okay, well, if I comply with Cruel, then I may face sanctions. I'm like, sanctions for what? Will they not give you your good blood? I'm assuming that's what it is. They won't give you the good blood. Your progenitor will cut you off. I feel like Lest Car is like one of those villains way down the road. And he's like the 4th or 5th progenitor, something really high up. And he's like, what shall I do? But then he notices, and without hesitation, he throws Esther in front of him. That's, Okay, I want to go back to that just for a second. Again, little moments here, right? So he throws Esther under the bus, like literally throws him in the way to get, but I want to note that it looked like Yoichi's fire went directly at Lukel. It looked like Shinya's missed a bit more. What? Again, I don't know. After Guren in this episode, I'm questioning whether Guren is the traitor or not. But Shinya, I'm like, Shinya, you're a trained sniper. You're the one that should know what to do. Why was your shot more off than Yoichi's? Why was that? Your shot missed more than his did. Suspicious, y'all. Suspicious. So they say that you take your curse stimulant pill, which freaks me out to no end because I'm like, last time you took one of those, he became this giant monster. But that was a special one that Guren gave him. So maybe it's different now. I just don't like the idea of taking them taking like steroids that make their demon stronger. I don't know. But yeah. And the sword like cuts through his knuckles. Ugh. Gross. And he aims specifically for the sniper. And luckily he's like, we're going to move after killing as many of the normal vampires as we can. Okay. And Yoichi's like, fine. Sure, while this tower is falling, let's just snipe as many of them as we can. Okay. I like that Yu immediately takes charge and Narumi's like tries to maintain control because Yu's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to test his strength. Let's do this. And Narumi's like, fine, you have my permission. It's like, Narumi's like, hey, you whippersnapper. Fine, I guess you can go do that. But yeah, Yoichi just snipes all these guys and just gets them out of the way. Gets them out of the way for you. And Yu's like going right up next to old Lukel here. And Lukel's like, I have not been having a good day. He's like, this is surprising, humans. I'm like, what else were you expecting? Right? And so then, yeah, I'm amazed that I kept thinking that you would draw out like the full power of Azure Maru, like have the fan and everything, but I guess it didn't seem that dire enough. I just figured he'd go all out and they'd all use their special abilities like right off the bat, but I guess we're saving that for Crowley, right? And so they just fight normally with the sword fight. And I do like the animation. The animation on the sword fight is really good. Like Wit Studio, they did a good job, like just the movement and like the angle and the dodging in and out. It was really, really good. And he catches Shinoa's scythe with one hand. Wild. But then Mitsuba gets there in a second, but then Narumi puts Shinoa gets put in Narumi's way, and Yu saves Shinoa, and then Lukel aims for Yu. But I love this Tenjiryu, protect you, like the axe blade has this like dual like monsters that come up to protect you. I like it. It's great. And it's like and he's like, oh, but I do like Mitsuba. Her demon looks really cool and has like its arms are the axe blades. That's really cool. I like it. And then Kimazuki, like they all basically go after him at once. And the fight choreography between Kimazuki and Lukel is really, really good. I like it. It's great. He's like, you die, human. But nah. And that's when Kageyama and Inoue come in and they get to Iwasaki with these. I was like, as soon as we saw Iwasaki, I'm like, he's gonna have a cool sword, because that's how it works. The cool characters that have like that appearance like him, they have a really badass cool weapon. And Akihibe, Hibe is a snake. Hibe is Japanese for snake, right? So it's like a chain snake, right? I love it. I just love how it looks on him to capture the enemy, and it gets around his arm so they can cut it off. Or he cuts it off, actually. Lukel being very, like, self-sacrificing. Lukel's not afraid to just lock that off. And then he ends up killing himself because he has too much pride and can't stand the idea of the livestock killing him instead. I also like this world-building strategy that they point out, where the vampires can reattach limbs, but they can't regrow it. So they can reattach a limb that falls off, but they can't regenerate it. Interesting. And so I will say this, like Lukel's talking about, these are the humans that Cruel was talking about. I'm like, Shinoa's like, we can't let him get back to the other nobles. I'm like, shut up, Shinoa, don't tell him your plan. And so Kimazuki comes up with the idea. He's like, hey, look, Narumi, you and I, we're bakas. Let us go do this thing and we'll be bait and set it up for y'all. And it works. I like it. It actually works. It's a great strategy. And Shinoa's like, they're idiots. Let them do this. It's great. I'm all here for it. And Kimazuki is wonderful at getting under a vampire's skin and just goading them. He's just like sticking the sword in there and wiggling it around. And he's like, don't make me angry. And he does. He baits him into it. And I love that moment where they lure Lukel in, and right as he's about to do it, you see Yoichi and Shinya behind him with the sniping. That was a great moment. And use the one, and that animation of him backing up, it's so good. It's so good. And that's when Yu comes up from behind to stab him, to like cut him. And it's the classic shonen, like the two sword fighters meeting at once, and Lukel misses and Yu gets it. It's so classic. I love it. And as soon as Shinoa came up, I'm like, oh, he's fine. But he got the cut. And to make note, his cut is in the exact same place that Guren's is, on that other noble that they end up fighting, that looked like some kind of leprechaun. It was crazy. And so he gets Indo, and God, the animation, when this series was to do like really fluid animation, him throwing her aside, like the animation was so fluid. But yeah, but I love this idea that he's like, I will not let livestock kill me. And he just stabs himself. and just does it before Narumi can do anything. And they're all just like, oh. So just that pride that Lukel had that he wasn't going to let someone else take him out, especially a human. And Yu's just like, oh. And Shino's like, you did it. And Kimazuki's like, well, actually, it was me. and Yu doesn't argue with him. I think Yu at that point was like, oh, he killed himself. Like that pride he had. Yu was like, oh. Like the fact that Yu just agreed with Kimazuki, like his mind is somewhere else. But Yoichi brings him back, right? It would have been rough without you. And he's like, oh, I do love Yoichi. He's a little precious cinnamon bun. I do love our little cinnamon bun. He's really cute. It's like, that's adorable. I'm actually I'm looking at the image of him when Yu is like, oh, look, you did it. And he's like, oh, I want to take a picture of that. So I'm going to do that real quick. I'm like, look at you. Look at you all. Isn't that cute? But yeah, he says, Shinya taught me a lot of things. And Shinya back there being like, suspicious. I'm just saying. Shinya, I love Shinya so much. I don't want Shinya to be the traitor, but there's just that couple little things in this episode that I'm like, could be a flag. Could be a flag. I don't know. And then I like Mitsuba's like, we can beat them. We can beat the nobles. Like, we can do it. And Narumi looking at the squad like, okay, these kids ain't bad. The 8 of us, or the 10 of us might be able to do some good. 11 if you count Shinya. And then, of course, Yoichi has to muck it up. Yoichi's like, I wonder if the other squads are doing okay. Nope. At least not Guren's squad. And it's such a contrast because you have Mitsuba and Shinoa's squad and Narumi's squad. They're all unscathed. Like, this all went off without a hitch. Their strategy worked great and nobody was injured. I mean, Indo got through to the ground, but she's okay. Everybody's fine. And then you cut to Guren, and Guren's like about to die. Like he's just on his knees, right? Against this giant noble that's huge. And he just overpowers it, but oh my God. Like, it's kind of crazy that he takes them all out. He says, shut up and die. And Guren just looks like he's about to go. It's weird seeing Guren this week, right? Because he's like the commander, right? It's weird seeing him look this disheveled, which again made me think like, if Guren was really the traitor, I don't know. I feel like they paint Guren, especially by the end of this episode, where Guren seems to be like having a mission now to go and avenge his fallen troops. I'm like, I just don't see him as the traitor anymore. It's weird how the show makes you like flip-flop back and forth, saying that was close. And then he composes himself. He's like, it's going according to plan. And Goshi's like, no, it's not. We had a really hard time. We had way too few on our team trying to look good. And then Guren's like, well, if we're struggling this much, then it was a good call to increase the manpower for the other team. So it's just their squad, right? Facing this noble. And he's like, I left Shinya above ground. He'll take the lead if I die. So I guess Shinya doesn't belong to a squad. I guess Shinya doesn't have a squad since he's the adopted kid. He just like flitters around. Again, suspicious. I don't know. But the fact that Guren trusts Shinya and he left him above ground to take the lead if something happens to Guren, it's like... And I like that she's like, really, Guren? Like... And then we get this this guy coming back that's been stabbed through the heart. He managed to make it back. And they're like, Kusunoki. And I'm sad for Kusunoki. I'm sad for this guy dying. We don't really know him. So there's not an emotional attachment for us, the audience. But his death is meant to be like something to spurn Guren forward, right? Because Guren is very upset that he's dying. And he's like, you're going to die. So report to your comrades what happened. Before you go, let us know what happened with this. And he says that our mission tanked. The city hall teams, all 45 men were wiped out. Not good, Cotton. And Guren's like, well, shit. He's like, they want the commander to come to the colonel to come to City Hall. But again, that's really suspicious too. That's really suspicious too, because it is a trap. They want him to come to City Hall. Well, but here's the thing. Guren seems slightly surprised by this. Like, why would I go? And he says 19 were killed and the rest were taken as hostages. Okay, so of the 45 men, 19 were killed. So I'm not a math major, but that's what, 26 left? Yeah, 26 are left as hostages. Okay. But so here's the thing. Guren seems surprised by this. Like, he's like, okay, they want me to come to City Hall. Why Guren? I guess obviously because he's the commander, he's the lieutenant colonel. But I'm like, why him? Why not Shinya? Right? Why don't they want the general commander, right? But Guren is like you, right? Guren is like you. And, oh God, here's the thing. Guren is like you in that he wants to protect all of his comrades. He has a very emotional attachment. They've been building the last couple episodes. They've been building Guren up to be established as he seems tough on the exterior. He puts off this vibe that he doesn't care. He's really tough and mean. But under all that exterior, he is very kind-hearted and has a soft spot for his comrades. So they're luring Guren there because Guren is going to take Shanoa's squad with him. The other squad's going to be like, this is a trap. This clearly isn't going to be good. What are we going to do? And he's like, well, then we'll get Narumi's squad and Shanoa's squad and we'll all go together to City Hall, to the center of the city. If Mika and them are trying to get you, then there you go. He's coming right for you. And I don't know. I feel like if Shinya is the traitor, Shinya knows Guren best. Shinya knows Guren better than anyone else. So Shinya would know that Guren would be easily lured to the center of the city if he was summoned and there was a hostage situation because he wants to protect them. So again, I don't think Guren is necessarily the traitor anymore, but Shinya is looking awfully suspicious. I don't know. And Guren takes the blame for this because he's like, it's my fault. I came up with this strategy and it failed. So he takes the blame. And I love that he uses Goshiki to make the illusion. And the illusion is just like so that he won't die in pain. Like, it gives him this illusion. And of course, this guy talks about how it was an honor to fight under him and like reaches up for his face. And Guren seems really sad about it. And then he's like, you can watch us from heaven, you idiot. And then he smiles like the illusion takes effect and he just dies. And I like that Guren just kind of slumps there like nope. And I like that Mito says, let me first say that this is clearly a trap and we shouldn't go. Because she sees the writing on the wall. She's like, obviously they're luring us here. But they know who you are. We're going to go anyway, aren't we? And they're all like, uh-huh. And Guren's like, welp, we're not going alone. We'll join Narumi and Hiragi's squad. Uh-huh. And our target is the 13th progenitor, Crowley Usford. And then we cut to Crowley at City Hall in this, just lounging about with his feet propped up on the desk. But here's the thing. What is he looking at? Right? He's looking over this paperwork and just tapping his finger out like, and he has a little fang. A little tiny fang. I feel like he's going over the reports that has been leaked to him. That the reports about what their abilities are and everything like that. I feel like he's going over that leaked information. Uh-huh. So I feel like at this point, Guren is not the traitor. I think Guren is being used. Guren is being set up. I feel like, yeah, Guren, because at the beginning of this season, there was so much suspicion around Guren, like, what are you doing? But we don't know Guren's entire motivations, but I don't think Guren's the traitor. I think Guren is being manipulated and set up by somebody else to lure you and the others there. The ones that are the Seraphs, the ones that are the experiments, Yoichi and Kimazuki and you, they're being lured to the center along with Guren and the others. And I feel like Crowley's in on it, that Farad's in on it, that Cruel may not know exactly what's going on. She seems like she's somewhat still in the dark, that there's still people working against her, but Ferret and Crowley seem like they're pretty closely connected. But I just think it's Shinya. I think Shinya's the traitor. And it's going to be so hard if he is, because him and Guren seem so close. And if Shinya is using Guren, I don't know. I ship Guren and Shinya so hard, so I don't want Shinya to be the traitor. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. But again, I think Crowley is like going to be set up as the main villain for the rest of this season. I think that's what they're setting up for us. I could be wrong, but that's just the vibe that I'm getting. But, oh my gosh, y'all. This was a great standalone episode. This was great. It's set up. It's raising suspicions. It's setting up little things about you and his character. It's setting up things about Guren and his character. I'm nervous for Guren. I'm nervous for our crew because this is clearly a trap. And I don't get good vibes because we're nearly at the halfway point of the season. I feel like next episode is going to be setting up the rest of the season and just getting the final battle started. But we shall see, right? So I'm curious to know your thoughts down below and what you guys thought of this episode. I really liked it. The animation was great. Hearing Zeke and Adam's voice actor was wonderful. But I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. So in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Seraph of the End. Bye.